We'll talk a little bit about last week. I thought, the bye week came at a good time for us as a program. Most people think of it as a physical toll that's taken on a team, and that's true. When you have so many new guys playing and young guys playing, there's a mental toll that's there too, a mental stress, and I thought because of that, it was a great time for that break. It comes at a time we started practice. Reported the 4th, started practice the 5th. Actually, this Monday was the 6th or 7th. And you look through our season with the championship game being December 7th. We got right at the 2-month period of when we started, and then 2 months until the regular season, the championship game. So right in the middle of all that, we got a break, and I think our players needed it, particularly the young guys from a mental standpoint, because playing at this level is hard. The stress to perform and be consistent is difficult, and you throw on that really the first real round of tests, exams, quizzes, getting used to college life. It couldn't come at a better time. So last week was good for us. We're back into game preparation week, and I think I like where our mindset is, and we had a lot of juice yesterday for practice, and we're ready to get back, get on the road and play somebody else.
Over here to the far right, Gabe.
Coach, I know the bye week is beneficial for everyone, but particularly freshman linebacker Darian Claiborne. How beneficial was it for him, A, recovering from the bruised thigh, and then B, just continuing to learn the nuances of middle linebacker?
I think it was more beneficial since he didn't finish the game last week. So, he got a thigh bruise. I gave him a chance to heal up. He's ready to go. Bouncing around yesterday, and like I said, those guys. Again, you think about it physically. 2 weeks before that, he had his first start. I don't care what you say. That's the preparation, the pressure to perform, all that it adds up, and it came at a good time for him. Now he's able to settle down a little bit, and instead of missing practice and missing the reps that he needs, particularly when you're playing a team like Ole Miss, who is going to force you to be disciplined defensively and make you read your keys, have good eye discipline, know where you're going. The reps are important for everybody, and him being able to do that healthy is a big help for us this week.
To the back here, Chip.
Kevin, how different is Ole Miss this year, if at all, in what you've seen versus who you played a year ago?
I don't know that they're very different. They've got a lot of their main pieces back. I think whenever you have a quarterback that returns for you, you're always happy as a coach. That's one less thing you got to worry about as far as experience. I think the addition has been on the perimeter. They've got really good skill. Moncrief and Logan have been there for a while. The addition of one of the better players in the country. They had a great recruiting year, and those young guys that they're putting on the field are really, really good players. I think what you see is they have really good team speed, really athletic across the board, offensively and defensively, explosive offensively. With the receivers on the perimeter, they're all 6'3". You throw in a running back who is a dynamic wire-to-wire guy we've seen him get loose in a bunch of different games. When you think you got him tackled, he's a punt returner. You got to tackle this guy. So they're explosive, and defensively, I think they've made a lot of strides with a bunch of guys up front. Who are playing very, very hard. They're a sound football team. They're a little bit like where we were last year in that stretch where I think they played 4 out of 5 games on the road, and that's tough, particularly when you got a bunch of young guys out there. I think you listened to Hugh's comments yesterday. They're happy to get back home, and that's going to be a big deal for them. So, as a football team, they're as advertised. They've played some good people and have played well. You look at how they've played in those games. Play here or there, things could be different for them. So they're a very, very, very talented, well-coached team, and they've got a lot of pride, and I think they're happy to get back home, and it's going to be a heck of a ball game.
We'll go to Kate and then Brent down front.
Hey, Coach. Coming off the bye week, any update on Kirby Ennis? And also wanted to check in on Floyd Raven, too.
Kirby is going to have surgery, and he will be done for the year. So that's something that we discussed. I should have updated you at the end of last week. I said last week we didn't have any press, but he had an ACL tear on top of the cartilage, which we gave him the option, and so he's just going to get that fixed, and that'll be it for him. Floyd Raven, we'll see what happens. We're on top of 4 weeks. The way things are right now, we'll monitor that situation. He could probably play, but I don't know how much practice he's going to get at this point. He practiced last week, but was non-contact. So we'll see where we are this week with him and what he can do. I would say, he day by day this week, and probably probable for the week after that. So that's about the biggest scouting injury report I've ever given.
I know, I appreciate it. Thank you. Also, I've been curious about Trey Carson, and I know when he decided he wanted to leave Oregon, I think it was your first spring. Just curious about how you guys connected, how he ended up at A&M.
Well, we've known about him for a long time, and when he was in high school and Coach McKinney, we bugged he and Brandon when we were at Houston. They decided to go somewhere else, and then they played as young guys, both of them, and I think within the first 3 months of us being here, getting here to Texas A&M, we had Brandon wanted to come back, and within a couple months after that, Trey wanted to come, and so they both knew each other out of high school. They both knew everything up front. I thought it would be hard for us to recruit a guy that at that point that was that good. I can remember being here at our indoor during bowl practice when I first got the job, and Brandon first showing up. And we had a young man here, too, who's playing very, very well for Arizona State, was here visiting. So, we had to make a decision on that deal. It's worked out for everybody, I think. But, that's the decisions you make. And I really appreciate those two because they understood they both had to sit out, which is very, very difficult. Coming here, they both knew up front, that they were coming here and that Trey Williams was on his way here. So they understand. I think really good players understand too that they, particularly at that position, and Trey knew that they were all different, but we had a history of playing, 2 or 3 running backs in this offense and really utilizing your talents, developing you, and keeping you healthy and fresh instead of just running one guy in the ground. And, he's a guy that gives us more substance. He's 230 pounds. He got in here. Spent the year. He was really out of shape last year. Everybody used to give him a hard time. Really worked his way into it this summer. And, I think you can see that he gives us an added dimension at running back that we haven't had here. We didn't have, before. And we like where he is. We like where all our guys are right now, and the ability to, as I said a week ago, when you put them in there in those 2 back sets, you can hand the ball to either one of them, and they're doing a great job of blocking or playing without the ball for each other, and that's what you want as a football team.
We'll go Brent and then Olin.
Since you deal with so many high school coaches with what you do, what was it about Clarence McKinney that caught your eye when he was at Jack Yates High School? And obviously he's really progressed since then with you.
It was before Jack Yates. He was at Booker T. Washington and as an offensive coordinator when I was at Purdue and Minnesota, coming down to Houston to recruit. And he was a guy who was always inquisitive about new ideas offensively, and we talked about different things. And you know, he moved on from there to North Shore, and I've known him for a while, not just, you know, across the street at Jack Yates when I was at Houston. The interesting thing is, all those years, whether I was at Purdue for 3 years or Minnesota a couple years, and even in Oklahoma, I never got a player from him. So, you know, that ruins the theory that you got to get players from a guy to hire him. You know, he had guys go all over the place that we never got. So I didn't hold that against him, you know, which tells you that I had a bunch of confidence in his knowledge and his reputation. And you know, I think, you know, the rest is history. You know, when I first got the job at Houston, I'd called him and told him about the situation to see if he'd be interested. And obviously he was there the next day. So it's worked out from there. I mean, he's a tremendous recruiter. He's got great presence with our kids. He's got a great way to communicate with our players, with the community, and you know, he knows Houston like the back of his hand. He's a guy who grew up there, played there, coached there, has a respect of high school coaches, you know, in that community. So he's a great fit. He's a great fit for us, and will be a really good head coach someday.
Is it accurate to describe him as scholarly?
Scholarly, yeah. Well, you know, that's okay. Just because he wears glasses doesn't mean he's a scholar. I say that all the time. I can put some glasses on too, and you're not going to call me scholarly? That's mean.
All right, Olin, then we'll go to the back.
Coach,
Is he scholarly right there? Is that what that means?
There goes that theory.
I'm just old, Coach. We've seen, you know, the strides that Johnny's made in the passing game, but I wonder, are y'all still encouraging him to run as much as y'all encouraged him to last year? And have there been plays when y'all have looked at the films or whatever where you said, hey, you know, we would have preferred that you run on this specific play?
We encourage him to win. So, you know, you have a player like that, and, you know, you go back through the video, and right here, you know, what would you do? What would a lot of people do? He's a little bit different than most people. So, yeah, I think there's been a concerted effort. I think everybody sees it, that he's improved as a quarterback. And by that, does that mean he's improved as what you think is an improvement as a quarterback may be different than what you think is an improvement as a quarterback. You know, it all gets back to what is the best thing for us to be successful on that play, and whether and it gets back to not giving the other team the ball and not taking negative plays. So, you know, the more that you can do that, that's what being a better quarterback is about, and ultimately that helps you win. Whether you're standing in the pocket or taking off and running, you know, we're not telling him every play you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, run or throw, because I think that limits his game. I think that's what makes him different. And the parameters around that, yeah, obviously he's matured, and when he's taken off, he's probably slid more than in the last 2 weeks than he slid in his life. Run out of bounds. He's doing some things with the ball, staying in there and going through his reads. So I think it's a comfort level for both things. I think he's more comfortable back there now in the second year, as I said, thinking conceptually, instead of just by play, and going through his reads and knowing what all's going on, knowing defenses, his ability now to be able to, you know, giving him some freedom to check plays, I think has helped him, instead of calling the play and him being stuck and then having to take off and run. So, he's got the ability now to look at some things and change the play to something that has a high probability of not being a negative play, and so you don't have to take off as much. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of things that go into it's just telling him not to run or just stay back there and throw. It has to do with, I think, his overall growth and development as a quarterback in what we do.
Go to the back, Darryl.
Coach, how big was last year's win in Oxford and how you guys were able to come back in the fourth quarter and overcome all those turnovers?
You can point back to that and say that was a pretty big deal based on, I wasn't here the year before, but that's all I heard about was how that game, we would have lost that game. And, I think the emotion that was in the locker room, the sigh of relief to go on and win in our first road game in the SEC, was a big deal. And at the time, everybody said, well, it's just, you beat a team that hadn't won very much. That team ended up being a thorn in everybody's side and full of talent and being a tough team to beat. So, I understand that, and you make steps as a program, and there are things you point back to that are steps in your growth, and certainly us going on the road and winning our first SEC game last year on the road was a big deal for this program and a step in the right direction. So, yeah, I think it's, like as I said, the year before I wasn't here, but I've heard all the stories about what had happened and the mindset that those types of football games, we wouldn't win. So there was a lot of emotion after the game, and rightfully so. And I think it there's no doubt that it helped us gain confidence as the season went on. But I think that game helped us gain confidence, certainly at a time where we needed it.
We'll go down here to Jimmy and then Sam.
Yeah, Coach, you talked a little bit about the challenge of making your first start. In fact, with Claiborne, you're going to have Isaiah Golden, based on your depth chart, doing that next man up in Kirby's spot. What do you see from him? What are the challenges he faces? How comfortable are you with maybe what he got done in the off week last week?
It doesn't matter how comfortable I am with it. It's how comfortable he is, because he's the guy we got going. So it's not, I say this all the time, it's not the NFL. I can't call Bob Stoops and trade a guy. We got who we got. And, what we have, and our guys understand that, we've got to be able to develop players. And in this game, in college football, not just this particular game, you have players that you recruit through, you're playing and you're hoping you can get through the season with them in a backup role, getting the experience that they need, and then, being a 3-year starter after that. Sometimes that doesn't work out. And we had this conversation yesterday in this room. We've got some guys that got to go. We're not the only team like that. I watched a lot of football Saturday where you got a bunch of guys out there playing this time of year that we're going to be backup players or forced into starting roles either for the rest of the season or for the next 3-4 weeks. So, we understand that. I think we have a number of players who are one play away from that. And your preparation when that's not the situation, it really helps you. I think Isaiah's been through a lot this season, and early and missed a week with the death of his child, and then he came on early on, has played some good football for us, really settled back down, and emotionally it's been a pretty up and down situation for him this year, and so. Last week we talked a little bit about where he was after Kirby's situation came to light, and possibility that he knew he was going to have to play. Now he knows he's got to go as a regular guy. And sometimes different guys react differently. I'd be surprised if Isaiah doesn't do very, very well from here on out.
Go right behind Sam.
Kevin, how important is it to you, the image that your program has when it comes to public perception or recruits and just kind of getting the message out of what you guys are all about?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you mean? Just to,
In terms of what it's like, I mean, you know, Ben Williams was saying you guys like to have fun. I mean, you know, just things like the music practices, things of that sort.
yeah, I mean, it's. I think whenever you come into a situation, I think that is more important, particularly if you, if you're trying to change a little bit of culture, if you're trying to establish what your program's about. I think that becomes more of an issue. I think, as you go on, as your program starts to move on, I think it kind of, you've got to be known for something. And whatever that is, you like to try to control what that is out there. Everybody's going to have their opinion about, who you are or what your program is. And I think what you try to do is get out there who you really are and speak for yourself and not let everybody else talk about Texas A&M and Texas A&M football. And I think our university's done a very, very good job of that, telling our story for us, not letting other people just think what we're all about. And there's no difference with a football program. You want to be able to speak for yourself and let people know who you are from your own eyes, from your players' eyes, from the program's eyes, from the university's eyes, instead of just assuming certain things. And our university's done a really, really good job of that. I think over the course of particularly the last few years, and since I've been here, I know that the university's done a great job of that, and we've obviously followed their lead and done some things on our own that help us tell our own story too. That some people nationally may or may not have known up until last couple years or even the last few months.
To the back here, Chip.
Kevin, you mentioned you watched some football on Saturday. Any team, player, plays, coaching decisions that particularly stood out to you as you watched all these games?
All of the above. I'm not going to talk about that though. Yeah, well, you see a lot of different things. We watch a bunch of football, and it's an opportunity. It's a teaching moment for our team. We actually used a few plays from Saturday in here with our team yesterday that that I think may or may not come up, but they're teaching moments for coaches and players, and I think just like everybody else, as coaches, you're not really critical when you watch other games. I think what you do is what I do is put myself in that position, say what would you do, and that's kind of how you do it. But yeah, there were a lot of things, a lot of really good games. I thought Saturday, and a lot of close games, and I think what you see is across the country, just the talented guys that are out there. And it's been a while since I've seen this many talented quarterbacks across the country. And I think as people have figured out, it's had an effect on scoring. And there's a lot of guys out there that can throw it and run it, and they're throwing to some big fast guys out there too. So, with offenses spreading people out and the talent level getting better and better, and the quarterbacks becoming better and better, a missed tackle can be 40 yards just like that. And you see a lot of explosive teams out there that can score points in a hurry.
Down front here, Brent. Time for a couple more.
How has Mike Matthews progressed in his first 5 games as a starter, and how valuable was the playing time he earned last year to get to this point?
Yeah, I think Mike is, he's kind of a blueprint for what we do at certain positions. The decision was made last year that to play him in a backup role to Pat. If something happened to Pat, then we would have a center, number one. But number two, guys prepare differently when they're redshirted than when they're playing. You know, if you spend the whole week being Ole Miss's center, you know, you don't really know what's going on in our offense. So, you know, you spend that whole year preparing and working on our offense, and having the chance to play as much as he did last year and in the second halves of those games. You know, he prepared differently. He understood the pace of play. He understood the tempo, understood playing games. It really worked out well for him. I think he has really, really progressed. And his ability to diagnose and get us lined up, get us operating in the right direction, handle things on the road, handle things at home. You know, again, you know, he's I think he is ahead of the curve when you're talking about a first-year starter in this league as a center. You know, for what he's done so far, I think anybody in our league would take him right now. If you say, you know, you're 5-6 games in and you're starting a first-year center with how he's played and the lack of mistakes that he's made and how he's got us targeted in the right way, I think, I couldn't be happier with his development.
Go to the back here. Last questions here, Darryl.
Coach, with the 7:30 start on Saturday, and you've played a couple other night games, are you guys kind of getting into the routine of knowing that Saturday's going to be kind of a long day?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're in this business, our guys are good. We play whatever, 11 to 9. So, you know, it's Saturday. And we get to a point where your team, if you're getting to a point where you're a decent football team, you're not going to know what time you play. So, you know, that doesn't really affect us. We just, whatever time they give us, we show up and we kick it off.